If you've ever apologized for things that weren't really your fault, for speaking too loudly, for taking too long to reply, for asking a question, for existing in someone else's space, you probably don't even notice how often you do it. It slips out automatically. Sorry, I didn't mean to. Sorry, is this okay? It doesn't look like a big deal. It sounds polite, considerate, harmless. But it usually says more than you think. People who apologize too much often aren't overly polite. They're overly responsible. They take emotional responsibility for the atmosphere in the room, for tension, for silence, for other people's moods. If someone seems slightly irritated, they assume they caused it. If something feels awkward, they move quickly to smooth it over. And the fastest way to smooth things over is to say sorry, even when nothing actually happened. You'll see it in small, quiet behaviors. They reread texts before sending them, making sure nothing could be misunderstood. They add extra emojis to soften their tone. They over-explain their intentions. They apologize before giving feedback. They apologize after giving feedback. They apologize for needing reassurance. It's not dramatic, it's subtle. And most of the time it feels automatic. But underneath that automatic sorry is usually a deeper pattern. For many people, apologizing became a strategy early in life. In some families, conflict felt unpredictable. Maybe someone had a short temper. Maybe love felt conditional. Maybe harmony depended on one person staying agreeable. In those environments, a child learns something powerful. If I stay small, if I take the blame, if I smooth things over, I stay safe. Apologizing becomes a way to prevent escalation, to avoid rejection, to reduce tension before it grows. It's not weakness, it's protection. And over time, that protection turns into identity. They don't just apologize, they become the easy one, the understanding one, the mature one, the one who doesn't make things harder. And that identity feels safer than risking disapproval. But here's where it gets interesting. Excessive apologizing isn't always about low self-esteem. Sometimes it's about control. When you apologize quickly, you control the narrative. You take ownership before anyone else can assign blame. You end the discomfort before it expands. You manage how others perceive you. In a strange way, saying sorry first can feel powerful, because if you admit fault, even when it isn't fully yours, no one can attack you with it. You already surrendered. So the apology becomes a shield. But shields have side effects. Over time, constantly apologizing subtly reshapes how people see you. If you're always the one at fault, people start to assume you are. If you consistently downplay your needs, others learn they don't have to consider them. Not because they're cruel, but because patterns teach us how to treat us. And the deeper cost isn't just external, it's internal. When someone apologizes too much, they slowly disconnect from their right to take up space. They hesitate before expressing opinions. They soften strong emotions. They pick up on micro-expressions. They pick up on tension before others do. Their nervous system is tuned to emotional changes in the room. So when something feels slightly off, they assume responsibility, not because they're weak, but because they're perceptive. They feel the discomfort faster, and they move to fix it faster. Again, not weakness, adaptation. But adaptation to what? Usually to environments where emotional stability wasn't guaranteed. In stable environments, children learn that conflict doesn't equal abandonment, that disagreement doesn't equal rejection, that mistakes don't equal shame. But in unstable ones, even small friction can feel threatening. So the body learns, reduce friction immediately. Say sorry, restore calm, stay connected. The apology becomes less about the present moment and more about protecting connection. And once that pattern forms, it follows you into adulthood, into friendships, into relationships, into workplaces. You apologize for setting boundaries. You apologize for being late, even when someone else changed plans. You apologize when someone misunderstands you. Not because you're wrong, but because your system is wired to preserve peace at almost any cost. And here's the quiet truth. Most people who apologize too much aren't trying to be liked. They're trying to avoid being disliked. There's a difference. Being liked feels good. Avoiding rejection feels necessary. That's why the apologies feel urgent, automatic, hard to stop. Because they were never about manners. They were about safety. And once you see that, the pattern makes sense. It was never random. It was learned. It was a strategy that worked. It kept relationships intact. It reduced chaos. It maintained connection. At least at first. But as you grow older, the same strategy can start to blur your boundaries. It can shrink your voice. It can make you question your own reality. Not loudly, quietly, one apology at a time. And the people who apologize too much often don't even realize they're doing it. It feels normal. It feels polite. It feels like who they are. But it isn't who they are. It's who they had to be. Once you understand that, something shifts. You start seeing the apology not as a flaw, but as a pattern, a protective one. And when you recognize a pattern, it loses some of its invisibility. You notice it in your texts, in your tone, in the way you enter rooms. And that awareness alone changes how you move, not because you're trying to fix yourself, but because you finally understand yourself. If this explains something you've quietly noticed about yourself, there's always more beneath the surface. Human behavior is rarely random. It's usually a story. And sometimes it starts with a single word: sorry.